meeting of the Committee on Accountability, Finance, and Personnel of the Board of School Directors will please come to order. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Director Carr is excused. Director O'Halloran.
Here.
Director Peterson.
Here.
Director Taylor is excused. Chair Herndon.
Present.
We have 3 committee members present.
The Chair will now ask the Secretary to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. The Chair invites any members of the audience who wish to participate to do so, and asks that those who do not wish to participate please remain silent during the pledge.
Madam Chair, and for the listening audience, Director Simpson is joining the committee.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we begin tonight's meeting, we have a short announcement regarding interpretation services for the Spanish-speaking members of our audience.
Bienvenidos a la Junta Escolar de las Escuelas Públicas de Milwaukee. Si desea escuchar esta reunión en español, por favor llame al 312-626-6799. Nuevamente, 312-626-6799. E introduzca el número de reunión 608-130-5362. Nuevamente, el número de reunión es 608-130-5362. Gracias.
Thank you. For each of our items of business, we will hold a discussion and public hearing. Those who wish to speak on tonight's items were required to register to speak in advance. When you are called upon to speak, please state your name and spell your last name for the record. For the sake of fairness and to give everyone a chance to speak, the Chair reserves the right to limit the length of time allowed to any one speaker. Written testimony will be accepted for transmittal to the board. Send this testimony to the Office of Board Governance, P.O. Box 2181, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53201-2181, or fax to 414-475-8071, or email to governance@milwaukee.k12.wi.us. Just as a reminder, Robert's Rules of Order dictates that all comments should be directed to the chair of the committee. Also, any questions or requests, including those from the public, committee members, or the administration, or to be directed toward the chair, who will determine the most efficient way to address them. For the safety of all and to ensure the good order of the meeting, harassment or intimidation tactics of any kind will not be tolerated. Anyone who engages in such harassing or intimidating words or actions will immediately be asked to cease. If such behavior continues, a recess will be called and the offending parties will be removed from the meeting before the meeting resumes. Anyone ejected from the meeting may continue to listen to the meeting or access the agenda items online. However, he or she will not be allowed to rejoin the meeting. Also, no one other than members of the board, designated staff, and those who have been invited to present on items of business will be allowed on stage before, during, or after meetings of the board and its committees. Also, for our listening audience, if you wish to access this evening's agenda items and attachments online, you may do so by visiting the Meetings, Agendas, and Minutes page on the MPS website and choosing Online Agendas. Now let's begin, Madam Secretary, with item 1.
Item number 1 is action on monthly personnel matters, action on classified personnel transactions, action on certificated appointments, action on leaves of absence, the report on certificated resignations and classified retirements, and the affirmative action report. The recommendation is that the board approve the promotions, appointments, and leaves as listed in the attachments to this item to be effective upon board approval.
Thank you. Does the administration wish to make comments?
Chair Herndon and members of the committee, Keith Posley, Superintendent of Schools. We're asking your approval of the monthly personnel and reporting items before you. Adria Madalini, Chief of Human Resources Officer, is here with me this evening. And between the two of us, we're prepared to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? Director Peterson.
Just very quickly, I was just curious, what does it look like in terms of vacancies for our teaching staff? Just a number. I know we are working hard on fulfilling them, but.
Administration.
Chair Herndon, Director Peterson, members of the board or the committee, Adria Madalini, Chief Human Resources Officer. Yes, we are working diligently, but yes, we do have some teacher vacancies to fill. For early start schools, we have 87 teacher vacancies. And for traditional, I can pull that up really quick. Where did it go? 112 for traditional schools.
Thank you. That's fine.
Madam Chair, we have no request for public testimony on this item. We do not have any public testimony on item number 1. On Director Peterson's motion to approve the administration's recommendation relative to the monthly personnel matters. Director O'Halloran?
Aye.
Director Peterson?
Aye.
And Chair Herndon.
Aye.
That's 3 ayes, the motion passes. The next item is item number 2, which is action on recommended administrative appointments, promotions, reassignments and reclassifications, salary increases and decreases, and limited term employment contracts exceeding 60 days. The recommendation is that the board approve the promotions, appointments, and reassignments as indicated in the attachments to this item.
Chair Herndon and members of the committee, we are requesting your approval of this item as it outlines this month's administrative appointments, promotion, reclassification, salary adjustments, and LTE contracts. I will ask Adria Madalini to share some information at this time. Adria.
Thank you, Dr. Posley. Adria Madalini, Chief Human Resources Officer. I would like to mention, next Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we are going to be having some job fairs here at Central Office, so I want to make a plug for anyone who is listening. Monday, it'll be from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Wednesday, it'll be from 4 to 7 p.m., and Friday, it'll be 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. We're hiring for teachers, secretaries, food service, building service, any administrative positions, IT. We'll be having individuals, administrators here on site interviewing, and we'll be doing testing on site as well. So please show up, anyone who's interested. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any members of the committee wish to make comments or ask questions? Director Peterson.
Yes, just two. One is I noticed that one of the people we're hiring is a chef, Freddie Campbell. I was just curious if he's one of the chefs that we've been talking about who might work with our lunch program.
Administration.
Chair Herndon, members of the committee, yes. And we have 3 other positions that are being posted. We have a total of 4. This is the first one. Thank you.
Thank you. Any follow-up?
First of all, thanks. I'm glad to hear that. We've been looking forward to that. Then the other question I had is, I saw a number of the LTEs are working with the Milwaukee virtual program. Could you just briefly describe that for me and other people who might not be aware of what that all means?
Administration.
Chair Herndon, members of the committee, Adrian Maddaleni, Chief Human Resources Officer. The LTEs for MVB program are individuals that will be providing services to the students after hours, as well as helping with IEPs, anything of the sort.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on. Madam Secretary, are there any community members that wish to make comments?
We have no request for public testimony. However, we did receive one piece of written testimony that the board has received.
Thank you. What is the pleasure of the committee with respect to this item? Director Peterson.
I move we approve this recommendation of administrative appointments and promotions and the limited term LTE contracts.
Thank you. Is there further discussion by committee? Director O'Halloran.
Thank you, Chair. I was actually going to recommend that we advance it to the full board without recommendation. But, so if you would like to maintain, that's fine. I just would pull it at the full board. Just wanted to be aware of that.
Madam Secretary? Direction, please.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, if I'm understanding correctly, Director Peterson has made a motion and Director O'Halloran would like to make a substitute motion, which is to move this item to the board without recommendation.
Yes.
So noted.
Okay. Will the secretary please call the roll on the substitute motion?
On Director O'Halloran's substitute motion to move the appointments item, item number 2, action on recommended administrative appointments, promotions, reassignments, and reclassifications, salary increases and decreases, and limited term employment contracts exceeding 60 days. Director O'Halloran is moving a substitute motion to move this item to the board without recommendation from the committee. On the motion as read into the record, Director O'Halloran,
Aye.
Director Peterson,
Aye.
and Chair Herndon.
Aye.
That's 3 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 3, which is action on Resolution 2223-9 by Directors Simpson and Peterson on collaborative shared leadership. The recommendation is that the board adopt the resolution as listed in the attachment to this item.
Thank you. Director Simpson and Director Peterson, as the sponsors of this resolution, do you wish to make comments?
Thank you, Chair Herndon. Yeah, so the motivation for this resolution is really to be very intentional about improving the culture within our schools and at the district level by focusing on collaboration and shared leadership to build inclusiveness, improve communication, foster an environment where individuals feel their voices are heard and respected as they work together at a school or here at Central Services. And, hoping, we want happy workers who want to stay here and, we're always talking about attracting and retaining staff. And if we have a healthy environment to work in, this is one way to get at that. It also, if we're working collaboratively, that also improves, the job that we're doing. It's, more heads together are going to, and more voices heard at the table as we're solving the problems and accomplishing tasks within the district. This is one way to get at that. And I'd like to thank administration for working collaboratively on this resolution with Director Peterson and myself.
Thank you. Director Peterson.
Yes, I won't repeat what Director Simpson said. We've been working closely with this. One, just for the listening audience, part of this will we're asking that the district adopt a set of practices and standards for shared leadership that include a number of different leadership responsibilities and expectations having to do with collaboration, drawing on the strengths of one's staff, adequate communication, and so on and so forth, and then having some professional development around that very issue. And so I've been a longstanding advocate of quality leadership, I think as everybody in this room is in favor of, And I know that in schools that are really humming along, it's usually a great deal to do with a leader who really encourages and draws on and holds staff accountable. And we're looking for, that to be widespread within the district.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Do we have any comments from the community?
Madam Chair, we have no request for public testimony on this item, and we did not receive any written testimony.
Thank you. Are there any members that wish to make comments? Director O'Halloran.
Thank you, Chair Herndon, and thank you to the authors of the resolution. I obviously support it, and just for like 1 second brag, today I got to celebrate the Miss Sato at Reagan receiving the Associate Principal of the Year award for Wisconsin. So I know that, you can really make a big difference with the right leadership. And so just wanted to brag about that for a second. I did want to just question, I don't know if this would go to the makers of the resolution or administration, just given all of our professional development, I'm just kind of wondering like how this would fit in with other professional development needs. Are there any concerns around it displacing anything else, or do we need to review kind of everything that we put on people's plates?
Thank you. Administration.
Chair Herndon, members of the committee, no, this would be another offering that we will have, and this is something that we will make sure that our administrative teams and teacher teams and teacher leaders receive this professional development. So it will be in rotation. We also have opportunities for individuals to go out and do PD on, from home and those kinds of things in the afternoon. So this won't be a problem at all.
Thank you very much. At this point, I'd just like to quickly ask Director O'Halloran to take the gavel.
So noted.
And we're back in person, so I literally have the gavel now.
I
Director
simply
Herndon.
wanted to say that I'm totally in agreement with this resolution. I feel that as board directors and administration and the community, we are a team. And if we aren't, we should be, because our goal should be the same, which is the success of our young people. So I support it fully, and thank you so much for bringing that forth. With that, is there further discussion? I'll take the gavel back.
So noted.
If there's further discussion, I don't see it. So at this point, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
First
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm going to move adoption of this resolution.
So noted.
Thank you. Skipped over that. Madam Secretary, can you do the roll call, please?
On Director Peterson's motion to approve Resolution 2223-9 by Directors Simpson and Peterson on collaborative shared leadership. On the motion as read, Director O'Halloran,
Aye.
Director Peterson,
Aye.
and Chair Herndon.
Aye.
That's 3 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 4, which is action on a request to approve vacation compensation for eligible employees. The recommendation is that the board approve the vacation compensation for eligible employees as outlined in the attachment to this item.
Does administration wish to make comments?
Yes, Chair Herndon and members of the committee. In December of 2021, the board granted approval of a request for vacation compensation for eligible employees. This evening, administration is asking for your approval to support vacation compensation for eligible employees. I have Martha Kreisman here with me this evening, and between the two of us, we are prepared to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Do committee members wish to ask questions or make comments? Not so. Okay, Madam Secretary, do any members of the public wish to make comments?
Madam Chair, we have no request for public testimony on this item.
Okay, what is the pleasure of the committee?
I move we approve administration's recommendation to approve the vacation compensation for eligible employees.
Okay. Will the secretary please call the roll?
On the motion as read into the record by Director O'Halloran relative to the vacation compensation for eligible employees. Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye.
And Chair Herndon.
Aye.
That's 3 ayes. The motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 5, which is action on monthly facilities matters. The FMS awards of professional services contracts, contract modifications, and material purchases. The administration recommends that the professional services contracts, contract modifications, and material purchases be approved as indicated in the attachments to this item.
Okay, does administration wish to make comments or ask questions?
Yes, Chair Herndon and members of the committee, we are asking for your approval of the monthly facilities matters as it relates to the awards professional services contracts, modifications, and material purchases recommendation. I have Sean Kane, who's the Director of Facilities and Maintenance Services, is here with me, and between the two of us, we're prepared to answer any questions that you may have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? Director O'Halloran.
Thank you. I was wondering if administration or Milwaukee Recreation can give a brief overview of the changes that we can expect at Emmy Playground.
Thank you, administration.
Chair Herndon and members of the committee, I will have Lynn Grabs, who's here with me from Recreation. Lynn, take it away.
Halloran, members of the committee, Lynn Greb, Director of Recreation. Yes, we have 2 contracts this evening for design work around Emmy Playfield and Wick Playfield. In regards to Emmy, we have held 2 community engagement sessions to get feedback from the residents about what they'd like to see for some improvements for the first phase of the work we're going to do. The number 1 need that was identified was a new play structure. So that will be the primary focus of this phase of work. The current equipment is very old and in need of replacement. So we estimate about $1.5 million for the cost of this project. And in addition to the play structure, we possibly will be able to do some depaving and a couple of small wheel elements. Small, though, very small. And by the end of this year, 2022, we will be sending a postcard out to the neighbors of the playfield to let them know the results of the community engagement and where we are headed, a high-level outline of the design. And then we hope to begin demo and construction next August after the summer playground program is complete.
Thank you.
Thank
Is there any more comments?
Not as it pertains to Emmy, but I did have a question if we could get some more detail about the asbestos and abatement disposal plan.
Chair Herndon, Director O'Halloran, members of the committee, Sean Kane, Senior Director for Facilities and Maintenance. The piece that we have for the asbestos abatement for those services, that is due to the ESSER volume of projects that we have to support that initiative. So that's why that increase is being requested.
Thank you. Any follow-up? Okay, thank you very much. Madam Secretary, Director Peterson.
Thank you. I was wondering if we could hear about the Wick Playfield too in terms of what's in store and community involvement.
Thank you, Chair Herndon, Director Peterson, and members of the committee. The WIC project will be similar to the Emmy project. We're focused on the play structure replacement. It's actually so old that the replacement equipment is no longer available. So it definitely is in need of a refresh, and we're excited to do that along with some ADA upgrades to make the site more accessible to everybody. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there follow-up? Yes.
I have a different question, but it's for, let's see, I think it's for Sean. I have, the question has to do with the chiller apparatus at Golda Meir. I know that there was, does that mean that we'll no longer be in a rental situation or a lease situation? Or if you could give some background, I'd like to hear about that.
Administration.
Chair Herndon, Director Peterson, members of the committee, Sean Kane, Senior Director, Facilities and Maintenance Services. The chiller that's being purchased, yes, that has to do with trying to, we currently have chilled water arrangement with the operator within the area. So yes, what we're trying to do is sever off that, meet the duration of the term of agreement that we do have, and independently go on our own with that piece of equipment.
Thank you.
Follow-up.
No follow-up. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Madam Secretary, are there any members of the public that wish to make comments? Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Chasen.
Thank you, Chair Herndon, Matt Chase, LIE. What is the, question for Mr. King, what is the current duration of our agreement with, I think, is it Schlitz Park that with whom we have that chiller arrangement?
Chair Herndon, members of the committee, Sean Kane, Senior Director, Facilities Maintenance Services. The agreement that we have in place is through March 31st of 2024. So the what we're trying to do is perform that installation over the upcoming year.
Thank you. Follow-up?
My understanding is then that we are expecting sort of a seamless transition so that at the time that that arrangement ends, we should be able to move over and not expect any sort of quality of service impact. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. No follow-up? Okay. Madam Secretary, are there any members of the public that wish to make comments?
Madam Chair, we have no request for public testimony on this item.
What is the pleasure of the committee with respect to this item? Director O'Halloran?
I move we approve administration's recommendation regarding professional services contracts, contract modification, and material purchases.
Is there further discussion? If not, will the secretary please call the roll?
On Director O'Halloran's motion to approve the administration's recommendation relative to the monthly facilities matters, Director O'Halloran,
Aye.
Director Peterson,
Aye.
and Chair Herndon.
Aye.
That's 3 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 6, which is action on a request to approve the technical amendments to the lease agreement with the UW-Madison Pre-College Enrichment Opportunities Program of Learning Excellence, the PEOPLE program. The recommendation is that the board approve the attached lease agreement with UW-Madison's PEOPLE program as attached to this item.
Okay, does administration wish to make comments on this item?
Yes, Chair Herndon and members of the committee, this evening we're asking for your approval of this item as it pertains to the technical amendment for the PEOPLE program lease agreement. At this time, I'm going to ask Sean Kane, Director of Facilities and Maintenance, to share out at this time. Sean?
Thank you, Dr. Posley, Chair Herndon, members of the committee, Sean Kane, Senior Director, Facilities and Maintenance Services. The lease or technical amendment that we're requesting for or recommending to move forward has to do with the PEOPLE lease that is housed at the Rufus King Middle School site. This item originally was approved back in the June board of 2020, June 23rd to be precise. And at that time, the agreement was passed and approved. And during that time, if obviously everyone remembers, that was the height of the pandemic. And how we typically go about the process whenever if we have documents that need signature, gets circulated. And when we passed it on to our partner over at UW-Madison, there was concern about what signatures at the moment, or at that time, I should say. And they were, I should say, holding on to the document, and we're trying to work everything out because at that time, everyone was pretty much quarantined at that point when we were going, trying to work remotely, et cetera. During the course of the time that elapsed, that the document was known that we didn't have a fully executed signatures that were put on the document, And at this time, what we're trying to do is move forward and get the document signed at this point. But we also did have a different board president at the time, President Miller at that moment, and also the UW chancellor was a different person in that capacity at the moment. And right now, there was a tweak with just the language of the term to kind of coincide what we're trying to accomplish today by extending the term through the July 2024.
Okay, thank you very much for that explanation. Are there any more comments by committee? Director O'Halloran.
Thank you. It's not necessarily pertaining to the lease agreement, but rather it just says in the description that it'll serve approximately 400 MPS students. I was just wondering how the students will be selected for this program or how it's being advertised, because it does sound like a tremendous program, so I'd love to hear more about it.
Administration.
President. Chair Herndon, members of the committee, yes, this is an amazing program. Have Dr. John Hill, who's going to go into details, but we make sure that all of our 8th grade students get that golden opportunity. It's a big kickoff that they do every year for each of our students to get information with their parents and to come back to apply for the program, and they select students. So I turn you over to Dr. Hill at this time.
Chair Herndon, members of the committee, John Hill, Director of College Career Readiness. People Program does recruit 8th graders beginning December, January. And so what we do for the People Program on our end is we will send postcards out to the students because we do not release student information. So they give us the parameters of students that would meet the requirements. And so we run the data on our end, get the addresses, and get that information out to all the families through direct mailings. Also, our school counselors, they present to our counselors that service 8th grade students as well, and get the word out to students and families via school personnel.
Thank you very much. Are there any more comments? Nothing? Okay. Madam Secretary, are there any members of the public that wish to comment on this item?
We have no request for public testimony on this item.
Okay, thank you. What is the pleasure? Oh, Director Peterson.
I move approval of the request to make a technical amendment to this lease.
Madam Secretary, do we need a second for that?
Not at this moment.
Okay. All right. With that, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
On Director Peterson's motion to approve the administration's recommendation relative to the technical amendment to the lease agreement with UW-Madison for the People Program. On the motion as read into the record, Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye.
And Chair Herndon.
Aye.
That's 3 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 7, which is action on monthly finance matters, the authorization to make purchases, the acceptance of the report on revenues and expenses, the monthly expenditure control report, the report on budget transfers, the report on contracts under $50,000 and their cumulative totals, and the report on monthly grant awards, and the acceptance of donations. The recommendation is that the board, 1, authorize the purchases, and 2, accept the donations as listed in the attachments to this item with appropriate acknowledgments to be made on behalf of the board.
Thank you. Does administration wish to make comments?
Yes, Chair Herndon and members of the committee, this evening we're asking your approval of the monthly finance matters before you. Janina Dunchek, Director of Procurement and Risk Management Services, is here with me. And between the two of us, we're prepared to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to ask questions or make comments? Director Peterson.
I had a question about the Scholastic contract.
Administration?
And let me just ask the question, I'm sorry. It says it's for different modes of writing. And I was just curious if poetry is included in that. I ask that because in my experience teaching especially students who are learning English as a second language, poetry can be very powerful. I'm just curious if, I have a lot of respect for scholastic programs generally, so I'm just curious if poetry is part of that.
Administration?
Chair Herndon and members of the committee, I am to share with you that Jennifer Mims Howell is on her way to the mic, and at this time she will be sharing with you in regards of whether poetry is a part of the writing piece for Scholastic. Jennifer.
Thank you, Dr. Posley. Good evening, Chair Herndon, members of the committee. The Scholastic is available for our students 1st through 8th grade, and also we have a component for our high school students as well. We do have the English as a second language component. We have some Spanish literature that's part of that as well. What we also are doing is making sure that we have a variety of titles and genres so that all students can have an opportunity to follow along with what is assigned, but also what also interests them as well.
Thank you. Any follow-up, Director
Oh,
Peterson?
the poetry part, I apologize. The poetry part, yes, that will be something that we will use for our writing prompts, but it also will be another opportunity for students to create their own poems. We can use them in a different way. So in some of our English language arts courses, it may be used as the main text or the main lesson, and in some of our high schools, the poetry could be used as starters writing their own poetry, as well as maybe lessons that go deeper into the author or the origin of the poems.
Thank you. I'll just say that in my teaching at Fratney for several years, we saw the power of the poetry, both in both languages. Children were supposed, in 5th grade, had to do a poetry book with 4 poems in each language, and then we had a public poetry reading at Woodland Patterns every year. And in seeing how students come alive with, playing with language and so on and so forth, I'm pleased to hear that it'll be part of this program as well.
Thank you very much. Madam Secretary, do we have any members of the public that wish to make comments?
Madam Chair, we have no request for public testimony on this item.
What is the pleasure of the
I have one
committee?
more.
Director Peterson.
I have one more question, and I'm not sure, this is about the mural at Craig Montessori? Is that part of this? I think it's in, there's so many attachments, I sort of get lost sometimes.
Administration, I think it is Craig.
Yeah.
Chair Herndon and members of the committee, we're pulling that item right now, so you ready? And what, President Peterson, if you'd be so kind to repeat your question.
Yeah, and I think it might be, is it in item number, attachment number 6? I'm not sure. Okay, thank you for helping me.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, so the question is, I believe it's an 8 by 10 foot mural, and I was just wondering what the cost is. Like, there was 3 levels of cost, but I didn't quite get the graph.
Chair Herndon, President Peterson, members of the committee, Janina Domchik, Director of Procurement and Risk Management. The cost for this mural is $3,290.
I was reading to the right of it, and it was a lot more, but that's
It's cumulative.
thank you very much. I strongly support murals in our schools, so
Okay, so no follow-up?
no problem.
Okay, thank you. Madam Secretary, are there any members of the public that wish to make comments?
Madam Chair, we have no request for public testimony on this item.
Okay, what is the pleasure of this committee with respect to this item? Director O'Halloran?
Oh, my mistake. I move approval of administration's recommendation to authorize the purchases and accept the donations as listed.
Is there further discussion? If not, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
On Director O'Halloran's motion to approve the administration's recommendation relative to the monthly finance matters, Director O'Halloran,
Aye.
Director Peterson,
Aye.
and Chair Herndon.
Aye.
That's 3 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 8, which is action on the award of professional services contracts. The recommendation is that the board authorize the professional services contracts as set forth in the attachments to this item.
Thank you. Administration, do you wish to make comments on this item?
Yes, Chair Herndon and members of the committee, this evening we're asking for your approval of the professional services contracts before you. Janina Domchek is here with me, and we're prepared to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Director O'Halloran.
Thank you. I did have a question. So it says that the contract shall run from November 28th, 2022 through November 27th, 2025. I was just wondering, does this, so it's to fill positions that are currently open to do the work and with continuity of service, is my understanding. Does this lock us in, though, until then, or is it just until as such time that the positions are filled? Can you explain that to me, please?
Chair
Administration.
Herndon, Director O'Halloran, members of the committee, Janina Domchik, Director of Procurement and Risk Management. We made this a 3-year contract to not only cover the current need, but in the event that we would have vacancies in the future, we would not have to worry about trying to secure a contract, and we could immediately address those vacancies.
Any follow-up?
So then I'm correct in understanding that we're not locked into $500,000 if it does not reach that limit?
Correct.
Perfect.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
members of the committee, in addition, to add to Director O'Halloran's question for information on this item, this is an item that would come back to the board annually for renewal.
Okay, thank you so much. Are there any more comments by committee? Madam Secretary, are there any comments by the public requested?
Madam Chair, we have no request for public testimony on this item.
Okay, what is the pleasure of the committee with respect to this item? Director Peterson,
I move approval of
thank
this
you.
item.
Will the secretary please call the roll?
Madam Chair, 1 second, I believe you're being signaled by the administration.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
Chair Herndon, members of the committee, Janina Domchik, Director of Procurement and Risk Management. We are asking for a 3-year term limit per Administrative Policy 3.09. We are able to request up to a 3-year contract. So instead of bringing it annually, we would have this contract be available for 3 years, but only use it when needed. So it would not come back annually for renewal.
Okay. Are there any changes? Madam Secretary, go ahead, please.
Madam Chair, this we need a motion.
Okay,
I
I was concerned because he had kind of made one already. Director Peterson.
I move approval of this agreement as described by the superintendent staff, that it would be for 3 years and period. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
On Director Peterson's motion to approve the administration's recommendation for the 3-year blanket contract. Okay, so that provides clarity. For the 3-year blanket contract as listed in the professional services contracts. So moving approval of all of the professional services contracts is listed in the attachments to this item. Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye.
Chair Herndon.
Aye.
That's 3 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 9, action on the award of exception to bid request. The recommendation is that the board authorize the exception to bid request as set forth in the attachments to this item.
Does the administration wish to make comments on this item?
Chair Herndon and members of the committee, we are asking for your approval of the exception to bid contracts that are before you. Janina Domchak is here with us, and we are prepared to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Do committee members wish to make comments on this item? No comments. Are there members of the public that wish to make comments, Madam Secretary?
Madam Chair, we have no request for public testimony on this item.
What is the pleasure of the committee with respect to this item? Director O'Halloran.
I move approval of administration's recommendation regarding the exception to bid request as set forth in the attachment to this item.
If there's no further discussion, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
On Director O'Halloran's motion to approve the administration's recommendation relative to the exception to bid request, Director O'Halloran,
Aye.
Director Peterson,
Aye.
and Chair Herndon.
Aye.
That's 3 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item 10, which is a report with possible action on the MPS nutrition program. This is an informational item, and although it has been noticed for possible action, no action is required.
Does the administration wish to make comments on this item?
Chair Herndon and members of the committee, at the October AF&P committee meeting, it was requested that the Department of School Nutrition provide some additional information regarding staffing, student engagement, and next steps. This evening, I have with me Omar Abdullah, Director of School Nutrition Services, to provide the board with some additional information. Omar.
Thank you, Dr. Posley. Chair Herndon, members of the committee, Umar Abdullah, Director of School Nutrition Services. We have a short presentation for you guys with the information that was requested. All of our activities and operations are following 5 priorities of success. So we were asked to provide information about our staffing and the vacancies that we have, as well as the number of positions that are benefit eligible and non-benefit eligible. So if you see table number 1, it shows the total number of employees that we have. We currently have 441 filled and about 212 positions that are vacant. And the table 2 shows out of 653 positions, 482 are benefit eligible and 171 are non-benefit eligible. So the cutoff is 6 hours. So any of our staff who works 6 hours, they are eligible for all benefits. Table number 3 shows the 212 vacancies that we have based on different positions. And table number 4 shows how many of those are benefit eligible and non-benefit eligible. They happen to be exactly same number, 106 in each category. And just to finish off on the staffing, tomorrow we have orientation to hire 15 more staff members, and we are continuing to work with our HR team to interview and hire more people. Next slide is about student engagement. Last month we met with our students as part of the YES group, Youth Empowered in the Struggle. We listened to them. We had about 20 or so students from Hamilton High School, Riverside High School, and Rufus King High School. So we met with them. We listened to their concerns regarding school meals. We explained to them why we had to switch to the pre-packed meals that we were serving for last school year and this school year. And then we updated them about the situation we have with the staffing and supply chain issues. We also shared with them what we are doing, to transition our kitchens back to being production kitchens. We shared with them about our work around updating and revising our menus. And we also shared with them about hiring new chef to work on our menus to improve on recipes and menus and stuff like that. And next slide in the presentation is about moving forward. As we have shared before, that we are working really hard to transition kitchens to being production kitchens. As you guys have seen on administrative appointments, this month we have hired a chef, and as soon as he's on board, we are going to start working with our kitchen staff, as well as get student engagement, get students' feedback, and then work on developing recipes and improving on our menus and food offerings. And then last item, as I mentioned, we have, as part of our staff training, we currently have 15 food service manager trainees in our training program. We are working really hard to get them trained and assign them their own schools to run the meal program. So that's what we are doing. And that's all we have to share. And additional information, I believe, was sent to the Office of Board Governance to share with the board members regarding the staffing by site and how many hours, number of employees at each site.
Thank you so much. Do committee members wish to ask questions? Okay. Madam Secretary, are there members of the public that wish to make comments? I do have a slip here.
Madam Chair, we do have one individual who registered to speak online. However, they are not on the online platform as of yet, but we do have one speaker here in the auditorium.
Okay. You want me to, okay. Do we have Anita Garrett? Would you come forward, please?
First of all, I want to thank you guys, the chair, for letting me speak. My name is Anita Garrett. I'm raising 4 of my grandchildren who attend Milwaukee Public Schools. I know what it feels like to go hungry and go to bed without anything to eat. I know what it's like to walking into school in the cold, looking forward to getting something to eat. I know what it smells like. That smell when I was in school, that wonderful smell of home-cooked food. It gave me something to look forward to. It helped me concentrate. We don't have that. We don't have that. I know there are issues with staffing, there are supply chains issues, but at the end of the day, we're talking about our children going hungry. My grandson said, "Granny, I'm so hungry at school, I can't even concentrate." The excuses about supply chain and staffing don't fill my grandson's belly when he's at school. When the buses come late, they cut off breakfast service for my grandkids, can't get breakfast. When given the reason about staffing, but that's the reason doesn't give my child the nutrition they need to thrive. I work at the food pantry at West Care, and I saw a child come and picking up food in the morning so that he can feed his family. We talk about these reasons, why can't we get things done? By the end of the day, our children are hungry. It was on national TV, kids are talking about how they are throwing food away. I went to the White House, had the privilege and the honor to go to the White House conference on food, hunger, and nutrition. And the president stated too, there's a problem with the school lunches. We need more details. We need a bigger sense of urgency. We need a timeline. I'm asking this committee to share details on how many schools are actually making progress. Which ones? When will others join in? They said, you're saying you have a chef coming in. You have more staff coming in. When? Are all schools making sure that every child get a breakfast even if the bus is late? No, because they're not. It's unfair for a child to be left out. That's why I'm here. Because like I said before, I know what it feels like to go to get up in the morning, didn't get any food at night, but at least get up in the morning and thinking that you're gonna get something to eat when you go to school, because it's mandatory to go to school. And that food helps you get your brain right, to wanna learn. You can't go to school hungry and want to sit there and listen to the teacher or pay attention. You lose focus.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Garrett. With that, are there any comments or responses from committee? Madam Secretary, I'd like to pass the gavel.
Committee members, you have a committee member who would like to speak prior to passing the gavel?
We can go ahead if you don't mind with Director O'Halloran. I'll just wait.
So noted.
I'll go to Director Peterson first, and then I'll go to Director Herndon, since that was the order of the
Maybe
raised
this will be
hand.
the same question that Director Herndon has. My understanding and my experience in MPS is, in the schools I've been at, is if a child comes late due to busing problem or other problems, actually, there's a procedure, we have an established procedure for them getting food. And I would say, one, I want to confirm that with administration, and obviously if a parent or a teacher sees that that's not going on, they should let the principal of the school know, I think.
Administration?
Chair O'Halloran, members of the committee, we do not deny any child breakfast. If the bus is late, they still are entitled to have breakfast, whether they have to go down to the cafeteria or whatever the situation may be, we address those needs. And yes, the principal will need to be made aware, and I also need to be made aware if there's any school that are not adhering to those standards.
Any follow-up, Director Peterson? All right. Director Herndon?
Thank you very much. My question is in regard to the kitchens. You mentioned that you were adding more production kitchens. I remember when I first got on the board, this has been an issue all along. My research determined that we weren't able to have in-house prepared food like many of us grew up with in the cafeteria. So do you mean with production kitchens that those are kitchens that you've now reconverted with the ESSER funding or whatever, so that the food will now be prepared at the location?
Administration?
Yes, Chair O'Halloran and members of the committee, when we say production kitchens, the food is prepared at the school, at their kitchen.
Follow-up, Director Herndon?
Yes. Do you have statistics or any stats on how many kitchens that we've converted thus far? Or are we in the middle of a fixed number of rollout kitchens?
Administration?
Chair O'Halloran and members of the committee. Last school year, we had started the school year with about like 15 schools that were production kitchens, and we increased by the end of this school year, we were up to 24 schools. And at the beginning of this school year, we were able to add 4 more schools. So currently we have 28 schools that has a production kitchen. And we are working to add more, as soon as we hire more people.
Follow-up?
Yes, so what you mean is we have 24, and you're adding 4 more, which would be 28 as of this year, as soon as you get staff.
Administration?
Chair O'Halloran and members of the committee, we already have 28 schools that are production kitchens. And our goal is to add around 20 to 25 more schools by the end of this school year. That is directly dependent on getting the staffing.
Thank you.
Director Herndon? Okay. And since I have the gavel, I'll just add, I think some of these, there was a breakdown of this that was provided in the presentation, was it last month? So some of the data that people are asking for can be found in a previous month's presentation, is my understanding. So would you like the gavel back?
Yes, please.
All right.
So noted.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, this is an informational item. So is there further discussion? Next item, please.
Madam Chair, that was the last item on this meeting's agenda.
Okay, with that, there being no further business before this committee, this meeting is adjourned.